So how you doing, man? What's going on?
Good, bud.
How's your
Good,
day?
good. I'm just, you know, it's a day. It's a little cloudy.
It-
A little cloudy.
yeah.
It's funny because the weather dictates my mood. If it's sunny,
hmm
I'm happy. I'm springy. I'm like, boom, boom. Let's go. Let's rule some life here. And
Right.
then when it's cloudy, I was kind of like, what's the point?
I,
But
yeah. I hear you,
yeah,
man. I
so
mean,
yeah.
with the overcast and the clouds and stuff, you would think that dark side was coming. You see what I did? It's like a
Great
transition.
transition, Greg.
You know.
Great. You thought about that for a while, didn't you?
Actually, I just came up with it. Literally, I
Okay.
just came up with it. Let's talk about the Snyder Cut. I'm curious. Let's first of all, have you seen the new trailer?
Yes, I have. I have done. Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Well, I loved it. I thought the trailer was awesome. It's interesting. I mean, of course, online you see all these things, the aspect ratio and stuff like that, because
That
it's
seemed
got
to be
this
pissing off a lot of
square.
people.
I'm not sure why, but I mean, if the intention was to show it on IMAX, I guess I
Right.
guess he's kind of taking a page out of the Christopher Nolan book, saying,
hmm
okay, maybe the aspect ratio will change throughout the film. I don't know.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, Christopher Nolan is an executive producer on the film.
Hmm.
Do you think he just nudged, like, hey, it'd be cool? IMAX. Come on, Zach. IMAX.
Hmm.
No, man, I'm with you. I saw the trailer. The truth of the matter is, I've seen all the trailers. I mean, I've seen the one where they re-showed Hallelujah, which I liked. I thought that was really cool. A lot of
Right.
people seem to get pissed off that he used that song that he used in Watchmen. I didn't care. It looked cool. And then I saw
Hmm.
the other version when he did it in black and white, and then people online just really got into uproar because how dare him use black and white? Who does he think he is? How pretentious.
Well, I guess some people thought the whole show was going to be in black and white.
hmm I wish it
Uh,
was.
Well, I mean, black and white's in, right? Ta-da.
It is. Da-dum.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, a
Black and white is
little
what
shout
it's
out
at.
for Noir, our film coming out.
That
It was going to be in black and white, but black and white
it's
is
gonna.
cool. I think a lot of people are kind of getting into the black and white thing. I mean, you have
hmm
Mad Max did their, the Fury Road did a what was it called, the Chrome,
hmm
the Chrome version, which was
right.
really cool. I mean, even though that film is so colorful,
hmm
um, I have to say that if there was ever a film that was meant to be shown in color, that was the movie.
I would imagine it looked good in black and white too.
I loved it in black and white. I thought it looked terrific in black and white, and it does give a
Right.
completely different aesthetic. But
hmm
that movie's made to be seen in color, though. But if you've seen it in color already, then you definitely want to see it, in black and white. Kind of like Logan. Logan was amazing in black and white. I mean, I prefer
Right.
Logan actually in black and white. Uh,
hmm
the black and white version they did as opposed to the color.
Did you like the black and white trailer?
I did. I did like the black and white trailer.
And I really did like this new trailer because, dude, it looks fucking epic. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. And all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
now it's like this is going to be a different movie. This is
Right.
going to be a completely different movie.
Thank God.
Well, okay, let
I
me
mean,
ask.
I mean, seriously. Ugh.
you
All
know,
right,
let's
here we
let's let
go.
let's okay, let's start from the beginning. Let's go to Justice League. Let's actually go to Justice League. What was your
You were
thoughts?
talking about the Josh Whedon version of Justice League, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, uh, where do you begin? I mean, I really hate that film. I mean, the only film that I can think maybe I hate even more than that movie, Suicide Squad, comes to mind.
hmm
When I think of Justice League, the Josh Whedon version, because I think what they did, I don't know what Warner Brothers was thinking at this moment. I mean, I
hmm
know that they wanted to jump on that Marvel bandwagon. They wanted to get that Marvel money, and
Right.
everybody, I guess, was kind of, throwing in their 2 cents about, okay, we got to do this. We
hmm
got to be more like this. We got to be more like that. We got to get those little quips in there. We got to, we got to make it more like a Marvel film more so than a DC film. And I think
Right,
that was the
right.
biggest mistake they made. The biggest mistake they made.
Yeah.
Because if anything, Christopher Nolan kind of came in with the Dark Knight trilogy and just kind of made it its
His own.
own thing. It was dark, it was
Right.
moody, it was brooding. And I
Hmm.
think that's where DC had its strengths. A lot of people would criticize it that, well, it's too serious, it's too this. But you
Right.
got to be a little different. You got to be a little bit more unique. And I do think that those stories, at least the way they started out, could have had a lot more weight. Remember when Man of Steel had its first trailer moment?
Oh
The first trailer
yeah.
for Man of Steel back in the
Oh
day.
yeah. Yeah. That was
It was
awesome.
like,
It was
yeah, it
better
was
than the
like
movie.
yeah.
Yes.
I felt like Terrence Malick has directed a Superman movie, which my mind
Yes.
was blown,
Yeah.
by the idea of that, because the imagery that they were using, and seemed like it had so much weight and so
And the
much seriousness to it.
right, and the music, Hans Zimmer's music to that trailer gave it such gravitas. It really, it was saying, look, we're getting away from the Richard Downer version, and we're going to tell you, like you said, a Superman that Terrence Malick would direct. I'll never
Yeah,
get over that. The very ending of that trailer was the little boy, little Clark, with the red cape as a kid, kind of posing in wheat, while
yeah,
out in the
yeah.
I swear to God, I said, this is like an indie film. This is like an indie Superman, and then the movie turned out to be something different.
Well, the movie, unfortunately for me, when I saw the film, there were some interesting choices made in that movie.
Hmm.
And I will say, for me, anyways, and I think it's a technical thing why that movie doesn't work as well. And it's
Right.
the editing. For me,
Okay.
the editing of that film does not work because it's choppy. It's like they couldn't set on anything more than 2 minutes before they had
Hmm.
to cut to something else. It didn't have time enough to breathe. I feel
Hmm.
like that movie should have been more and maybe Zack Snyder is just meant to make longer movies. Maybe it should have been a 3 hour film,
Hmm.
or something, or maybe it should have been a two-parter. I don't know, but it
Right.
just felt rushed. Like you couldn't really get into the character. You couldn't really let it breathe and
Hmm.
feel the emotion behind it. Because I do think that there were a lot of elements that were there, or at least you saw the potential of those elements.
Yeah, it was strange watching that movie. I was so excited to see it, and I was also so excited to see a different interpretation of Superman. And I felt like, okay, if there was ever a time to go back to the origin, that would have been the time. We don't need any more origin for Batman. I mean, God knows we've seen Batman's origin of his parents being killed, 100 different variations. Superman
Mm-hmm.
was like it was a long enough stretch that I felt that we could have gone with an actual origin. And I think the problem was that I felt that Man of Steel was being molded into Batman Begins. It might as well have been called Superman Begins, because and then
Right.
they were also taking kind of what you're talking about, the editing. They're also taking the editing style that worked so well for Batman Begins, and they were using it to Man of Steel. And so
Mm-hmm.
therefore you kept cutting back and forth from his childhood to him as an adult. And the beginning of the part of that film was, no, I want to learn how the kid taught him as a child. I want to go back through this. And it never really delivered on that. I'm curious though. What's your feeling on Zack Snyder? I mean, because this is more or less getting us geared up for the Snyder cut. Is he like, how does he rate with you?
I like Zack Snyder because you know Zack Snyder is a visual artist, and
Hmm.
I think he's probably, as far as when it comes to comic books or graphic novels and things like that, I think he's
Yeah.
really in tune with that. And
Yes.
I absolutely, I still to this day love the 300. 300 I think is amazing, and even
Hmm.
though the effects might be a little bit tired now that we look back at it, feels a little dated.
Hmm.
There is something epic about that film still when you watch it, just because it just seemed like, it was passion. You can see the passion of the filmmaker in that work. And I
Right.
think that that's what he does. I think he brings a lot of passion to his films. If I was going to criticize Zack Snyder on anything particular, is, it always comes back to the script. It always comes back to the
Hmm.
writing.
Right.
Um, I think that's where his projects are. I think he concentrates so much on these amazing visuals and these amazing visual moments
Right. Right.
that I'm glad he does. But at the same time, I wish they would spend a little bit more time on the writing, on the
Hmm.
characters, on the development, on the dialogue, on those elements that would really, if you had that element come up to the level of his visuals, then I mean, he'd probably be my
Yeah.
favorite filmmaker out there, right? So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think that he's had a lot of hit and misses. Sucker Punch, I like Sucker Punch. I mean, a lot of people hate that movie, and
Hmm.
I remember when we first saw it, we're kind of scratching our head, going, "What was that?" You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
and but even after going back now and looking at that movie, and after a few years, that's a pretty deep movie. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a lot going on in that film, and visually, it's stunning, of course.
Right.
And but the problem with that movie, once again, and I don't know if it was the clarity of um, the story that they were trying to tell, because there's a lot of nuances in that story that you
Hmm.
can read it in many, many ways, which is great for a film. I think
Right. Right.
it's not so like dead on that exactly what it's about. It's a little bit obscure in that respect, so you can read a
Hmm.
lot of stuff into it. I just thought that maybe he should have been a little bit more clear on, and maybe that happened in the editing, in
Hmm.
the post, because I hear that there was a much more of a film. Once again, it should have been longer, but they cut it down, so maybe that affected the clarity. It's a really good, flawed movie.
Yeah. For me, I was bored. I mean, but
Right.
I will say this: his visuals really across the board is off the hook.
Hmm.
Um, I I do get tired, like particularly with Sucker Punch. I shouldn't have to go into an editorial video and they explain all those moments that makes this movie brilliant. That's not really on the screen, but you have to decipher it on the video. Because then to me it doesn't make for an entertaining film. If I gotta
Correct.
do research on, oh, did I miss something or kind of, then I don't think he did his job for me.
Hmm.
Now, at the same time, it, the visuals are incredible, and I think that's the thing about Snyder that I find fascinating. I think Snyder, two of my favorite films actually, is 300, and the remake of Dawn of the Dead. I think,
Oh, Dawn of the Dead is awesome.
and also I generally liked Watchmen. I thought that the Watchmen movie that I saw at the theater was good. As a matter of fact, it actually made me read the graphic novel, and then I went back and saw it again. Now, I haven't seen the 3 hour version, and I think with Zach, if Zach has a strong material, like Watchmen, like
300.
300, or even the remake of Dawn of the Dead, I think he could soar. And I think that's where the story does match the visuals, But I think that, like Sucker Punch, when he's kind of doing it on his own, and even let's might as well get into it. Batman v Superman. I think he gets so overwhelmed by the wow moments that it's almost like those little moments are kind of nothing. Those little moments are just there to string in another wow moment, But those
Yeah.
little moments are where the story lies, where the character lies, where development and arc and all that stuff, and that seems to be missing a lot sometimes when I watch his movies. So when, like, Batman v Superman, for example, how devoid of joy that movie was. I mean, I was like, damn. When you make choices like Batman is now killing people and Superman is moping around as usual from Man of Steel, you're kind of, and at one point you're thinking that could be interesting, but
Yeah.
then when you see the movie and even the 3 hour version, which does explain a little more of the plot, but doesn't make it a better movie or a movie experience, because most of the other things is seeing those images on the screen, and he kills it with the images. Again, he kills it with the images. I just don't think those images make for a very good movie.
For those images to really have an impact, you have to really work on the script. You got to work on the structure. You got to work on the characters and
Hmm.
really get us involved in them. And I think
Right.
that was another big reason why, for me, Man of Steel didn't work, because it was chopped up so much that when you did have an opportunity to really feel something for the characters, we would have to cut away because, well, we got no time for this. It's almost like the
Yeah,
emotion
yeah,
was
yeah.
completely forgotten. It's like, okay, we can't really, delve on this, too long
Hmm.
because we got action we got to get to.
We got a lot
Um,
of action.
we got a lot
We
of
don't.
action to get to.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is, and you see this in every Michael Bay movie practically, especially a Transformers film,
Hmm.
is that it just becomes white noise after a while. It doesn't matter how
Yeah.
good your CG is or how amazing these set pieces are. If there's no emotion behind it, who gives a shit? You know.
How'd you feel about Batman v Superman?
Um, I mean, I will say Batman makes a great villain.
Yes. Yes.
He makes a terrific
Yeah.
villain. I'm watching Batman kicking his ass, and I'm going, "Holy shit!"
Hmm. Oh no.
Batman is fucking him up, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, it really. I saw Batman in a different way because we've always seen Batman in a,
Hmm.
altruistic way, even though he does really, maybe questionable things. It's always to a villain, right? But when
Right.
he's
Right.
doing that to Superman, you're going,
Yeah.
whoa. And
Uh
I
huh.
love that's probably my favorite part of the whole movie. Actually, it was that whole thing because it kind of took you back a little bit, going, whoa.
Hmm.
Batman's capable of this. This is pretty intense.
Well, I mean, but he again, he got their source material from Dark Knight Returns, and in that version, Batman did win.
It's funny as you mention that because a
Uh
lot of
huh.
the imagery is from Dark Knight Returns. You
Yeah.
kind of wonder instead of doing Batman versus Superman, what if
When
he
I
would have
do
done
Dark Knight
Dark
Returns,
Knight Returns,
I
right? If he'd have done
exactly.
that with that
Yeah.
source material,
Yeah.
damn, I bet you'd have been amazing. I bet
I,
you'd have been.
and
Mm,
and I think that's the problem. I think I think the reason 300 worked so perfectly was because Snyder did the comic for
yeah.
almost verbatim. The comic
Hmm.
book itself were the storyboards to 300. And when you can watch that movie from beginning to end, it felt like you read the comics, which are the graphic novel. If he could have
Hmm.
just done that with Batman v Superman and just make Dark Knight Returns, instead of, because then he also meshed it up with the death of Superman with
Right.
Doomsday. It just cluttered everything up, and it just imagine if you could have made that movie, how great that movie. It would have been along the line of what he did with Watchmen. The reason why I
Hmm.
really enjoyed Watchmen. Now, I have you seen the 3 hour Watchmen version?
I've not seen a 3 hour Watchmen, but I will say, in my opinion, when I saw the theatrical version of Watchmen, and there's a lot of purists out there that say, oh, it's he took so many liberties with the comics, it's not nearly as deep as the comics. Okay, I'll give you that. It's not nearly as deep as the comic, but if you're making a movie about the
Yeah.
Watchmen, I
Hmm.
felt as far as translating that to the big screen, I
Right.
thought they did a hell of a job, and I,
Yeah.
I I thought they did a great job as far as some of the choices they made. I mean,
Yeah.
even the whole thing with the nuclear bomb instead of
The
the
giant
crazy
squid.
squid monster. Yeah,
Yeah. I
I
mean, I
thought
think
that was a good choice.
I mean, there's just certain things you have to adopt out of the when you transfer it from the book to the movie because nobody would have accepted the giant squid. Now, if you look at the TV series Watchmen,
Hmm.
we're so knowledgeable on comic lore now because you figure
Hmm.
Watchmen was what almost 20 years ago when Watchmen first
Right.
came out. So now you could get away with a giant squid because we've been watching nothing but DC and Marvel comics as a steady diet and stuff like that. But I thought that he did an incredible job of executing as close as you can to the graphic novel without being a slave to it. And there was so many awe moments in Batman v Superman, and I knew there were moments I did like. Obviously, the Batman warehouse scene was awesome, probably the best fight. No, it is the best fight version of Batman put to screen. And
As good as the Christopher Nolan movies are, the fight scenes are
the
not
fight
that
scenes,
great.
the fight scenes sucked in the Christopher Nolan
Yeah.
movies. They
Yeah.
look, but
Yeah.
but see, Christopher Nolan is such a great filmmaker and storyteller that was the least of the problem. It was like
Yeah.
he didn't have to worry about it because everything else was raised to a dramatic level story
Hmm.
wise, and that's why story is still so much more important, in my opinion, than even the spectacle because you got to
Yeah.
engage with the characters. Does the story hold? Does the story work with these characters? And to make Superman as miserable as Batman, you know,
Well, Well,
I mean,
there you go. I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that Zack Snyder, you need some good screenwriters. We're on call. Call us.
I'm sure he'll call us after listening to this. He's like, yeah,
Yes.
fuck those guys.
But no,
But
you're totally right. And let's talk about Lex Luthor for a second, okay?
yeah,
Ah,
yeah. There were choices. He made choices.
There were choices
that's for sure.
made here.
Yeah.
That I guess, when you got an actor that's somewhat of a popularity, sort of like, in his zone, I guess. But wow. Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah. I mean, that's where you just kind of pull Jesse aside and go, all right, Jesse, we all know the Joker was a really popular dude. And, everybody was really loving that. But, Lex Luthor ain't the Joker. Lex Luthor ain't this, this crazy manic, I mean, it's a choice that you can make if you want to, but yeah, that just did not work for me. I found him very irritating and there's nails on the blackboard every time I saw him. So I could not get into that character. And he's a good actor. We've seen him in some great stuff. I just didn't like the choices he made in that.
Well, come on, though. The choice of him putting that candy in that old guy's mouth, because it was cherry. Come on. That was priceless, my friend. That was priceless.
The weakest part of the movie, I thought. I thought Lex Luthor was the weakest part of that film.
Yeah.
And it really brought it down because you're only as good as your bad guy.
The problem is, though, Lex Luthor's motivation that was given to Batman. Batman had the Lex Luthor motivation. The reason Luthor hates Superman is he hates the idea that this alien can come in, one, steal all of his press, and also the fact that he's so powerful that at a snap of a dime could turn on any one of us, and that we got to do something about this foreigner. We got to be able to do something about how to take this guy down. That was always Lex Luthor's motivation, but Batman.
Which, if you would have handled that in a serious way, right? If you'd handled that in a serious way with that character, you'd have had something really powerful and really, and something that actually you might identify with in knowing that he's supposedly the villain, but you could actually see the reason why he's doing what he's doing and actually almost empathize or sympathize with that and say,
right.
Oh, here's a bad guy that I'm kind of not against 100%. I'm kind of seeing his side of the story.
Well, I think by doing that, then Lex was now just playing puppet master by pitting those two against each other, which means that he had to have already learned their secret identity. He knew all the other Justice League and stuff, but all this stuff is stuff we hadn't seen. So of course I'm constantly going, how the hell does he know who Batman is, or how does he know who Superman is? They don't show you that, or the moment why is Batman killing people? Well, apparently Joker killed Robin and Batman went over the edge. Well, you know what? I would have still liked to have seen that. It's like some of the cooler concepts weren't even there. We're seeing the aftermath of this. And I think that because of the way the backlash was against Batman v Superman, but I think the problem was that Warner's got cold feet, and so when Justice League came about, they decided to get rid of Zack and bring in Josh Whedon. And I'll tell you, when I saw Justice League, I thought, okay, here's the funny thing: I didn't hate the movie. I did feel the movie competing with itself. I did see like there was a darker version somewhere lurking underneath, being covered up by this lighter comic, almost Marvel-esque, Marvel-light version. But it felt like a movie that could have been made almost in the 90s, and it felt so, matinee, and yet I did enjoy seeing the everybody together. And I remember as I sat there and I watched the movie, I remember just thinking, God, I really would have liked to have seen what Zack Snyder's vision would have been, because I've always believed, good or bad, if you having Zack Snyder create your universe, then you gotta follow it through. You gotta follow it through, because otherwise you're going to have Josh Whedon's Justice League.
Right, and I always felt like Justice League was a movie that was probably at least 6 or 7 years too early.
Yeah. Yes.
I felt that, because Warner Brothers, and this is the politics of a corporation, right? You got a corporation, Warner Brothers. They're saying, oh, I'm looking over here. I'm looking at freaking Disney and Marvel kicking ass, at the box office or making, $1 billion. But, 700 or $800 million ain't that bad either.
Yeah, yeah,
And if it means that it's a really great movie and it has the longevity that I'm sorry, a lot of Marvel films just don't have. Because if you look at the Marvel films, they're really well done. They're amazingly executed. You can tell there's a lot of thought going behind them. But if you look at each one, for exception maybe Winter Soldier and maybe the final two Avengers films,
Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, and
Black,
I'll even go to
Black,
the first Iron Man. The
first Iron Man, Black Panther.
Black Panther. But those films are really the only ones that kind of stick out to me. I mean, the other ones kind of get lost in the shuffle. In fact, if you ask me what happened in any particular Marvel film, I'm kind of going, oh, I really don't know. I really can't. I can tell you in the broad strokes what happens. But I can't tell you individual films what happened in those individual movies because, unfortunately, they're kind of forgetful. I'll watch them. I'll enjoy them while I'm watching them. But after I leave the theater, they don't stick with me. The one thing that Warner Brothers had going for it is that those films that they were doing, and I think is because the weight of the characters, they stuck with you. Even Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman, I thought up until the last 20 minutes of that movie, dude, I'm going, what a great way to introduce Wonder Woman. And then, of course, the last 20 minutes, it gets into the comic book realm. I can kind of forgive that. I can say, okay, cool, fine. Your next time will be better. Of course, then they give you 1984, and you're going, what the fuck? Which is too bad because that was supposed to be where your filmmaker had the most control, right? It's like they almost learned their lesson with Wonder Woman and said, well, let's not tinker with the filmmaker's visions. Let's let the vision ride. And I feel like they almost did the wrong. They did the wrong thing with the wrong movie.
I don't know. It just feels like that DC, you're able to take more risk with a lot of their characters, and you can interpret those characters a lot more than what Marvel does. Marvel is a well-made machine that knows what they're doing and know how to make those movies pop, and they're probably the closest that's come closer to the comic books. A lot of them. And I think the problem was that the success of the Avengers started forcing Warner's to make these crazy decisions on Justice League. And I've always felt like, okay, if you're going to copy Marvel, then copy Marvel not in just the jokes that they tell in each movie, but copy them in their format. They did individual movies first with their heroes, and then they teamed them up. And I always felt like they rushed that with the Justice League. First of all, let's be honest. Man of Steel should have gotten a Man of Steel 2 before you stuck him with Batman, because we still had never got a chance to see the Henry Cavill Superman really become Superman. And he doesn't really become Superman even in Batman v Superman. But I think, again, their mindset is we got to catch Marvel. We got to catch Marvel. And they didn't think of the long game as far as, let's just plan it out. We'll do Man of Steel 2 and maybe correct some of the criticism that was on Man of Steel 1 and make that work. No, somebody said, hey, let's stick Batman in. Well, we just got done with The Dark Knight, not even 3 years after Man of Steel. It was literally like 2 years after that they wrapped that up before they brought Batman back. It's
and
like,
honestly, I was always upset by the fact that Ben Affleck didn't get his own standalone Batman movie.
Yeah.
I always felt like,
it was good.
Yeah, I always felt like introduce us to his Batman in his own movie so we can get to know that version of the character. It was sort of like I kind of compare that to Jared Leto's Joker in Suicide Squad. It's like, it's a different version of Joker. He never had any showcase to really show us, what he could have done with that character in that movie. It was just like he was just tagged in there.
I would push back on only the one comparison, which is Ben Affleck didn't really have anything to do with Batman. I think he had plenty to do with Batman. I mean, Batman v Superman, the reason that movie worked was because of Ben Affleck. I mean, when he was cast, that was the biggest news story of, oh, fuck, they're going to fuck up Batman with Ben Affleck, Batfleck. But
right.
but people walked out going, no, he's the best thing in that movie. That was the best thing that the movie had going. Him and Wonder Woman, and I think that but I think Superman got shortchanged because they had to make Batman, the Ben Affleck version, Batman, almost as if that's a Batman movie. And when you,
Well, that's
especially when you,
why I think it would have been better if they would have had a standalone Batman before that.
yeah,
And then if
exactly.
you did a Batman versus Superman, then we've already been introduced to that character. We've already know that
But
character. We've already seen Ben Affleck
right,
do his thing.
right,
So
and
you
I
could
think
have
that,
given a little bit more equal billing with those guys.
yeah, and I think that was where the mistake was. I think you should have had a Man of Steel 2. So then we see Superman really become Superman. Then you have the Batman with Ben Affleck Batman. Then you could do Batman v Superman. But that movie was so crowded because you got Batman, you got Superman, then you got Wonder Woman in there. We got to do a little bit of her origin story. Then they still stuck in the Justice League in there. I mean, that's the reason Batman v Superman was also called Dawn of Justice. But I will say this: as we got to Justice League, it's amazing how, as good as Affleck was in the Batman v Superman, how really weak he was portrayed in the Justice League, because they're constantly kept referring how mortal he was, and he started making jokes and stuff that was so beyond Batman's character that it
Well,
was
he
just.
suffered from the Black Widow syndrome, right? In the Marvel
Mhm.
comics, you always look at Scarlett Johansson and go, she's terrific, and as far as her abilities as a mortal, she is pretty amazing. But then you compare her to the powers of Thor and Captain America and Hulk and those.
Well, you know what it was? They leaned too much on he's rich.
It may be the ultimate superpower, right?
Yeah, yeah. Let's be honest. We both know it is. But it was okay. It was at best entertaining. I was disappointed on so many things that I felt they could have done, but I really was wishing for the Snyder cut. Now, the irony was the Snyder cut was this thing that the internet, that all the fans just went on the internet saying, we want the Snyder cut, we want the Snyder cut. And thanks to HBO Max happening, because let's be honest, there would be no Snyder cut if we didn't have HBO Max. We get the Snyder cut now. And I don't know about you, but I'm generally excited to see this movie.
No, I'm hugely stoked for the film, and I've been hearing rumblings about it's actually pretty good. So
Mm-hmm.
that actually is, even though you can't really trust these early reviews, because
Mm-hmm.
look at Wonder Woman 1984, it got these splendid early
Yeah.
reviews, and then when we
Yeah.
saw it, we're going, where did this come from?
I think it's
Um,
and then what other movie had those early reviews that was, oh, okay.
yeah,
This,
we're not going to get into the Star Wars thing in
yeah,
this one,
okay,
but
yeah,
yeah,
never mind.
definitely.
Yeah.
It makes you scratch your head, that's for sure. What did Arsenio Hall used to do? It makes you go, you
Oh
know?
my god! Oh my god! He did not
Yeah,
studio
see,
joke.
there you go. Boom, boom.
What are you hoping for in the Snyder cut?
Last couple of years, anyways, there's been so much about the running length of films nowadays.
Hmm.
I guess it started with maybe The Irishman or whatever, but everybody was so up in arms that why is the movie got to be 3 hours or 3.5 hours
Dude,
or
that used to be
4 hours?
the normal. I mean, we've come from a time where 3 hours, 4 hours, even 6 hours was kind of a norm back in the day.
Well, back in the '60s, you had these amazing David Lean films,
Hmm.
like Lawrence of Arabia and stuff they were event films. God bless Tarantino. I mean, he's still trying to keep that alive. I mean, with
Hmm. And so's Nolan. I mean,
yeah,
Nolan and Tarantino are both event filmmakers.
yeah, and I think that I don't understand the angry pushback on those films because I don't have time to sit in a theater for 3 hours or
Hmm.
whatever. It's like, dude, you just paid $25 to get into a movie theater, another 25 or 30, for popcorn and soda and stuff. And God forbid if you take a date,
Hmm.
it's your weekly paycheck.
Right.
I want an event. I don't want to see it and get out of there in 2 hours. I said, all right, I want my money's worth.
And you know what? Zack Snyder heard you and said, "Hold my beer." Just when I look at the trailers, and so far there's been like these leaked 3 or 4 or 5 different trailers. It feels so Lord of the Rings meets Game of Thrones. It's
Mm-hmm.
so epic, and it's so it and you. I'm praying that he can tie all this stuff through, because it's 4 hours, and supposedly when we saw the I think they said they only used about maybe, which is hard to believe, but supposedly they only used only maybe 20 to 30 minutes of what Zack actually shot, and that was a reshot in Justice League.
Well, that's sort of
So
like that. That's the ego thing, right? A director comes on board, and they
mhm,
want their name on it, of course, and they say,
yeah,
"Well, I'm going to reshoot the whole film because I got my vision, and I'm going to do my vision." It's sort of like what Ron Howard did with Han Solo. It's sort of like, yeah,
right.
it's like, yeah, I would love to have seen the original version, but I guess we'll never see that. But I just think it was a huge mistake, and this current kind of, it's sort of like the director used to be the auteur of their films, and
Hmm.
whatever the director's vision was kind of respected. Now it seems like there's so much money riding on the line now. The director is pretty much, if he's not a yes man, he has no place in Hollywood. It's sort of like, unless you go with what we want you to do as a director, unless you
Hmm.
want to make these changes that the suits want you to make,
Right.
then you don't have a job anymore. We're going to bring in another director that will say yes to us.
And I think it's tough when you do that to a visionary director, because
Yeah.
Zack Snyder is a visionary director, whether you like him or not. He has a vision, and I think that was the struggle with Justice League, because I saw somewhat of a vision, but it was a vision not completed, and that's why I think apparently all the fans felt the same way, and that's where you released the Snyder cut took on a life of its own.
But now
To
let me ask
start.
you: would you go to a theater to see Justice League, the new version, the Snyder Cut, the 4 hour? Because I hear they got, certain IMAX theaters are going to be playing it, and they're going to have an intermission
Mhm.
and all that. So, would you go
I,
see it?
if you took COVID out of the equation, and I had the option of watching Snyder Cut at home or seeing it in the IMAX theater all the way, I will sit through the 4 hours. I mean, and if you got to go to the bathroom, you got to go to the bathroom. So, I
Right.
mean, and by the way, just letting you know, I've been training. I've been training because I'm planning on watching this movie without a bathroom break.
One
Now,
setting? Holy crap.
okay, but here's the key, though. Here's the key. I'm going to be watching it with you, and more than likely, you're going to probably have to go to the bathroom. And I know if you do, you're going to make that 4 hour movie into maybe a 6 hour movie. And if that's the case, that might break me. So,
Greg, Greg, not only am I going to have to use the restroom, but I might have to use it a couple of times. And not only that, but we got to have snacks. You got to have, I mean,
yeah, yeah,
one
this is
soda
true.
is not going to carry you through the whole movie.
I know,
You're
I
going to go
know.
to the kitchen. It's a fact.
I know, and God knows if the movie is boring. But I don't see the Justice League being boring. I really don't. I actually think I'm going to be fascinated because, like I said, I think the images that they're shown of Darkseid and the war that's raging between heroes, I think is going to be spectacular. As a matter of fact, they
This
have.
version of Steppenwolf, wow.
Oh yeah, they've done such a better job. That other version sucked.
But it
It
looked
was
like
so
something from Buffy
bad.
the Vampire Slayer, didn't it? I mean,
I say it reminded me of something I was in a Power Rangers movie.
right,
It just it wasn't real. Nobody cared. You didn't fear it. It just looked
right.
kind of goofy. This one actually looks. I'm like, where was this version at? That version looks incredible. I think Darkseid looks incredible. And
How do you cut Darkseid out of the movie?
well, okay. Well, here's the reason. Supposedly, the Snyder was going to do a two-part. So there was a part one where you did see Darkseid, but that would have been towards the end because I think in the original draft, Darkseid after Steppenwolf failed, Darkseid killed Steppenwolf, and then
Hmm.
Darkseid was then coming. So then the second part would have been Darkseid coming to Earth. I think when Warner's decided to let Snyder go, then and they hired Wheaton to take over, I think their feeling was, okay, this is going to be a one and done, which is that we don't do anything dark side related, and which I knew we were in trouble when I heard that the running time of the first Justice League movie with all those characters was only 2 hours. I'm like, okay, this is you're screwed. There's no way to
Hmm.
tell this type of story and do it justice. No pun intended. No pun intended. I caught myself to do it justice, and then it ended at 2 hours. That's crazy. I mean, it made no money, and people most people hated it, and
It was a
so
shit show. Let's
You know,
just face it. It was a shit show. I felt like it was just a patchwork of studio notes. It was just
I
a bunch of guys in suits going, "We need this, we need this, and we
I
need
I
this."
I go back to what I said before. I think that if you hire a visionary director, whether it's Snyder or Nolan or whomever, I think you have to stick it through. I think because the problem was after Man of Steel, they gave him Batman v Superman. If they didn't like Batman v Superman, then you don't get him for Justice League. Then you change it up. Then, but he was already doing Justice League, so his blueprint was already there. That was a point where, okay, guys, we gotta let him run with it, good or bad. Because I guarantee you this, it would have made more money if you did have the Snyder cut, because I think it could have blown people away and going, wow, look at this. Or even if they hated it, they still would have came out and saw it. I think the fact that they knew that Snyder didn't finish the film, and then the reviews were so poor on Justice League, that stopped other people from coming to see it.
But I'm just really sick and tired of this trend now of really good directors getting, thrown off their projects and having
Hmm.
another director come in and reshoot the thing because
Yep.
it didn't fit the marketing
Hmm.
strategy,
Yeah.
or whatever they're basing this on.
But Warner Brothers, I may have learned their lesson. I mean, perfect example is they have characters that they could do things that Marvel can't do. Look at Joker, for example.
Right.
Joker made $1 billion, and it was a rated R movie.
Yeah, and very real world inspired.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
So you can do that with characters, that's in the DC characters, and Marvel, you can't, because they're not going to turn their characters rated R. They're going to always be PG. Now I hear they've got Deadpool now, and I guess they're going to keep Deadpool as rated R. But that Deadpool's not really a Marvel film. I mean, yes,
yeah,
it's going to be under the Marvel banner, but it's not. Now, here's the thing: you got to give it to Snyder, man. Not only did he get a chance to finish his film, he got a chance to finish his vision, but then he's made it 4 hours long and made it rated R. Now, come on, you can't help but the director in you have to say, "Way to go, brother! Way to go!"
yes, it's like the end of Officer and a Gentleman. Way to
Yeah,
go, Colin. Way to go. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Good or bad, good or bad, good or bad. You got to just tip your hat off to any director that gets a chance, that gets booted off his own film, only to be asked to come back and then get more money to finish it in the exact version that you want to finish it. And then on top of that, you take DC characters like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and you put a rated R. Like, how many fucks are going to be in this movie? I want to know.
yeah. Well, I'm excited.
Now, this is something else that I'm fascinated with. Now, these movies also have chapters in. I'll go over with the first one. Don't Count on It, Batman. What do you think that is? I mean, what do you think this part of the story is?
In Batman versus Superman, my favorite part of that movie
Hmm.
was actually the dream sequence.
Yes.
Some sort of like weird vision that this is the future, so he's got to pull together all these superheroes in order to help fight this nemesis, which
Yeah.
I think is kind of technically what it will be about. Him going, it's that whole
Yeah.
let's get the gang together and pull a heist kind of thing, right? He
Hmm.
goes to each one and tries to get them to come on board. And
Yeah.
at first, of course, good screenwriting, structure. They won't go at first. They don't want to go. They're
Hmm.
reluctant heroes. They'll find a
Hmm.
reason not to do it.
Hey, hey, hey,
And
hey, hey!
you know,
Don't be bringing a tone to this. Don't you dare take my hope away. Leave your cynicism at the door.
okay, all
Okay,
right.
but
But I'm just saying. I'm just
hey,
saying.
I want to lead with optimism here. But I
Okay.
do agree with you, though. I think that don't count on it. Batman would probably be the dream sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Age of Heroes Part Two, I could tell you exactly what that is. Age of Heroes is the first battle that Steppenwolf has with the Amazonians and Atlanteans and I guess the Green Lanterns and stuff like that.
Which
That's
I will say in the previews, that looks badass.
Yes,
That
it
looks
does.
amazingly
Yeah,
awesome.
and I also think that either Darkseid's going to be in that version of it, as well as the dream sequence from the Batman nightmare sequence. I one of those two. So I think that's what the Age of Heroes is. Now, beloved mother, beloved son.
Is this
And
Martha again? Martha,
yeah.
is this Martha? Because I can't do it again. I can't do the Martha anymore. Okay, no more Martha, Zach.
Yeah,
It didn't work in that movie. It ain't going to
okay.
work in this
Okay.
one.
All right. This is not okay.
Right.
Now, change machine. Obviously, we know what that's referring to. That's definitely Cyborg. And not only we know that it's Cyborg, but we also know that it's black because Change Machine sounds too. I don't know why. That just sounds like
it sounds too cool, doesn't it?
It sounds very cool. But this is the one I'm definitely interested in because one of the biggest problems of Justice League is Cyborg. Cyborg was supposedly the heart and soul of that entire movie, and he gets cut. His scenes get cut so badly that you barely know who that character is. And
I hear he's one of the strongest parts of this new version.
Yeah, well, I think you see that in the trailer. Mm-hmm. I think you definitely see that in the trailer because they're actually putting all his scenes in there. That was the most frustrating thing about Justice League. I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm constantly going, "Hey, where's that scene where Cyborg stops the tank, or where's that scene where Barry Allen saves Iris West? Where is that scene?" There were so many of these scenes we did not see, which was very frustrating. Now, chapter 5 is, or part 5 is All the King's Horses. So now, obviously, I think, if they're going all the King horses, all the King's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. I think that's the resurrection of Superman. That's me. That's what I'm thinking.
I think that's good. That's a good theory. I think that makes sense. Because we know he's got to come back from the dead. So
that's right. In the black suit this time. Black suit this time. And then chapter 6 is something darker. And obviously darker is Dark Side. So maybe this is where we see Dark Side. Which supposedly there's a 7th chapter to this, or parts,
like an epilogue kind of thing.
Yeah, that's supposed to run 25 minutes, and that's called A Father Twice Over.
Interesting.
And now that I'm scratching my head on A Father Twice Over, I'm not. I don't know what that's about. I don't know. Maybe does Kevin Costner make an appearance? I know he does a narration in the latest Justice League movie. Does he come back to say, "I'm proud of you, Clark. You proved me wrong. I told you to hide from your powers." Man, talk about Jonathan Kidd giving the wrong lessons. He might have given the right lessons if it's 2020. They'll never trust you. Don't save anybody, save yourself. But I don't know. I don't know what The Father Twice Over again. What I do believe is look, Snyder has 4 hours to tell this Justice League movie. I do not believe that we're going to both watch it. I do not believe we're going to come back and have the same qualms that we've had with Batman v Superman and Man of Steel. We better not. That's 4 hours. That's more than enough time to tell your story. Now, what I wonder, though, and I'm curious, and let me ask you this. Do you think that he used this 4 hours to wrap up this whole story in 4 hours? Or do you think he said, "I'm just going to tell part 1 completely, and if part 1 does extremely well, then the studio is going to be begging, and the fans are going to be begging for part 2. What do you think?
If anything, I'm hoping in ways that Zack Snyder kind of learned a lesson from the second chance that he got. And said, "No, I'm going to put it all out there this one time, and I'm going to show my vision and let people see it and let them make that final decision." Because, gosh, what a great retribution for a director, right? To be able to come back after the fact and have your vision presented to everyone, good or bad. I'm saying, I'm hoping that's good, but if it's not, if there's still some issues about the movie, storytelling wise,
he still shows his own. Yes. I think it's a win either way.
Yeah,
I think it's a total win, because what's the worst that could happen? Let's say nobody likes it or it sucks. Well, that's his vision, and he got a chance to complete it.
Any more than a Whedon version. It can't suck any more than that.
Exactly, and you got the wonderful comfort of knowing you got a chance to see a bad movie at home. So you You know what I'm saying? You didn't have to
I
go out
already
to the
did that
theater.
with Wonder Woman 1984. Okay, I did
Okay.
that at. Oh,
Okay.
all
Yes.
right. I'm not
Yes.
going to
All
go
right.
there. I'm not going
You
to
already
go there.
you already went there. But
Yeah.
no, exactly. Exactly. But you're right. There's no way this would suck even worse. Not with those visuals. Because
No.
I will say one thing. With a Zack Snyder film, I'm never bored. I am
No.
never bored.
It's
I
eye
never
candy. There's a lot
yes.
of great eye candy there.
Yeah. I never sat through any of his movie. Look, even Sucker Punch, which is my least favorite Zack Snyder film, even though I thought the trailers were great, I thought the visuals were excellent, and I love those dream sequence, though I never got a chance to see her dance not once, which annoyed the hell out of me.
But that
Well, I'm like,
samurai sword fight
but the
sequence
samurai
was
was
insane.
incredible.
That was
Yeah,
great.
and even the World War One thing
Hmm.
with the blimp and in the trenches, I thought was
Yeah.
excellent. And I mean, you're constantly amazed on the visuals that you see. Um, he's a more talented Michael Bay.
Yeah. Well, that's not hard, right? I mean, is
Yeah,
it? I don't know.
I just think they both are big on spectacle, weak on story.
Right.
But at the same time, I think obviously Snyder is better on story compared to Bay. Bay, I don't think Bay gives a fuck about story. Okay, and unless he does a particular movie he wants to concentrate on story. But
You know
all the
what's funny about
Transformer
Michael
movies,
Bay? I don't know if you ever saw 13 Hours, is it? 13 Hours and even
not
No
yeah
Pain, No Gain.
yeah.
I like
I
those
heard
movies
those.
a lot.
Yeah.
I really thought those films, I mean, I'm watching it and they do have that Michael Bay flair, but they have great stories behind them. And
Hmm.
I was big fans of those films. I thought, gosh, if he could do more films like this,
Right.
I'd be more of a fan. But
Yeah.
once again, it's the white noise syndrome. It's like once you
Right.
get, and there is an art to the ebb and flow of storytelling because
Hmm.
the problem with a lot of the superhero films that we're getting now, and I think even Marvel kind of falls into this trap sometimes,
Hmm.
is there's so much going on. You're getting inundated with so much noise and so
Hmm.
much, action, visual stimulation on the screen
Right.
that you lose the emotional through line. You lose that emotional connection to the
Uh,
characters,
Right.
and I think there is an art to knowing when not to have the action and
Hmm.
the rhythm of that action and the pacing
Right.
of that action
Hmm.
um, that I
Yes.
think sometimes gets rushed because once again everybody's trying to hit that time, right? They're trying to hit that. We got to get all within 2 hours or maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. But
Yeah.
God forbid a movie goes over 2.5 hours. It's just like
Oh yeah.
everybody has a freaking heart attack at that point.
Well, I think that's when movies are made by committee,
Exactly. Yeah.
and I think that becomes a problem.
And we've seen
Um.
it. We've seen it firsthand where you get like 7 or 8 executives in a room and
Yeah. Yeah.
they all throw out ideas that, oh, this movie should have this because I saw it in a film last week that was very,
Yes.
made a huge opening
Yeah.
weekend. We got to have that in this movie too
Hmm.
because we want that money. And
Hmm.
unfortunately,
You.
you're sitting there going, how does that fit in this scheme of this story? It doesn't,
Yeah. Well, that's why most bad action movies are clumped together ideas that don't fit, but the producers want them in anyway.
I can't wait. We will be there and we'll be watching the whole thing in one.
Hmm.
I'm going to watch. I'm going to power through in one setting. I can't imagine
I'm
watching
telling
only
you.
a couple episodes and then waiting for another day or
Okay.
two.
Okay. Look. No. No. Hell no. I'm breaks or no breaks. We're watching it all the way through. Screw that. But I will tell you this: start training now. Look, I did. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you something, my friend. I I trained myself yesterday. Didn't go to the bathroom for 4.5 hours. That's right. Didn't go to the bathroom for 4.5 hours. But to be fair, I also didn't drink in 4.5 hours either. Now you're right. I'm not going to sit through Justice League without having my snacks and having my food. But for me, the key is, can I still be able to sit there and not have to go to the bathroom? So I recommend maybe start not drinking right around Wednesday. So by Thursday,
So
you
by
can
Thursday we'll be dehydrated.
you be
We'll be
but
starving.
you exactly. But
It's a
when
great time to end your fasting, right?
yeah, exactly. And when the Snyder Cut comes on, that's when we can eat. That's when we can drink, and we should be okay. Hopefully, within the next few hours. Now, would you go to now the theater? Like, I mean, if you had a chance to go Justice League IMAX, would you go?
Yeah, probably, because I mean it is sort of the fun of an event film once again, and I miss those, and
Yeah.
I just don't understand. I mean, of course, not every film should be an event film, but there are certain films out there that I think warrant, like, okay, yeah, this is going to be an evening. This is going to
Hmm.
be a complete evening. It kind of reminds you of the days when you used to go to plays or something. You know,
Yeah.
you go, you have a nice dinner,
Hmm.
either before or after the movie. Usually, you know, in that case, you probably want to go to have a nice dinner before you go to the movie. You go to the movie, you see it, you experience it. Afterwards, you maybe go to a bar, you have a few drinks, and talk about what you just saw. You know,
I would.
it's a whole day. You know,
I,
it's like it's like special.
I, I would do that in reverse. I would go to a bar. No, I wouldn't even go to a bar. What I'm talking about, I would actually not eat until after the movie. Because the
Right.
last, there's no way I'm going to have a nice dinner and then go see a 4 hour movie. Come
Right.
on, no
Okay.
way.
Well, you
You're going to run to the bathroom one way or the other. So no,
know.
I'll tell you what, I'll
it's
do the,
it's really all about the bathroom breaks, right? It's about
yeah.
the bathroom
Yeah, I'm
breaks.
telling you, you got to train yourself like a boxer, man. It's like when we go into seeing the Snyder Cut, man, it's like you're going in for battle. So you got to kind of get your body working. You got to get used to not eating. You got to get used to not drinking, particularly drinking a lot before you actually drink while you're watching. I'd rather do the nice dinner after the movie, where you can
Right.
go. But at the same time, how much do you miss theaters? I mean, with the whole, I mean, we're now coming out of, knock on wood, it looks like we're coming out of the pandemic. I just miss movie theaters. I didn't realize how much I miss movie theaters until just talking about it. You know, it's weird.
I Well, it's twofold. Certain movies definitely miss seeing in theaters.
I
Because
know
think
you're
about
going.
it,
Yeah,
we have seen a lot of. I mean,
yeah.
it's interesting because this whole last year, because of COVID, everybody's been locked in and everything. But and even HBO Max, for the most part, these when so much stink was, oh my God, Warner Brothers is releasing their whole slate to HBO Max directly.
Hmm.
Theaters are dead, all that stuff. Honestly, and I'm praying that the Snyder Cut breaks this trend. But I've not seen any of the films from Warner Brothers so far on
That you
HBO
like?
Max that I wanted to go see on the theater. That I would have,
Yeah,
I would have. In fact, I
yeah.
would have been angry if I'd have seen those movies in the theater. I would have been going, I paid money to
uh,
see the little things. What
uh,
was
uh,
that? I mean,
okay.
so many of the films that's been released straight to HBO Max have
Yeah.
not have been underwhelming to say the least. So, yeah,
Hmm.
I do miss seeing good movies in theaters. I miss that.
If I didn't know any better, I feel like you have a vendetta against HBO.
I mean,
And
put
even.
it this way: when Wonder Woman 1984, because I love the preview. When I saw
Mhm.
Wonder Woman 1984, especially when they played the Bizarre Love Triangle, I'm thinking, oh, this is gonna be off the
Oh
chain. This is
yeah,
gonna be a
yeah.
blast, right?
Hmm.
And then I'm like scratching my head, going, why would they release this straight to HBO Max? This
Oh
makes
yeah,
no sense, right?
and
Why don't they just set on it like everybody else is setting on their films?
yeah, and then you saw it, and then you said, "This makes plenty sense."
It
You know?
made perfect sense after seeing it.
Yeah,
I'm going, of course they dumped it.
yeah.
And which makes me really scared of the rest of the movies coming out this year.
Well,
I mean,
well.
and I'm praying that Dune is good. I really am.
Yeah,
But,
I will say though, I do think Snyder Cut will be different from the rest because Snyder Cut was always intended on coming out on HBO Max, where I
right,
think those other movies were intended on coming out in the theaters.
right,
So there was that moment when you heard that Warner Brothers were dropping all their movies, or their 2021 movies onto HBO Max, where you're thinking you're getting a gift. It's like, oh great, I get a chance to watch these movies, and we've not we're
yeah.
still waiting. We're still waiting for the gift.
Yes.
So far we've
Yes.
seen
It's
three
the
or four
gift
of them.
that you want to regift. You
Yeah,
repackage it and you regift it and you give it to
and you send it
somebody
back.
else.
You send it back.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I do. But I think bold prediction. I think Justice League will be that gift. And Snyder literally not only gets a chance to finish his movie, but got extra amount of money again to finish it the way that he wanted to, and that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Again that is so cool.
We're
I'm like,
cheering you on, Zach. Just don't fuck
yeah,
it up. Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of
Well,
thing.
it's coming. So
Yeah.
I think we're good. I think we've said all we need to say about Zack Snyder and the Snyder Cut. I mean, until we see it.
Looking forward to it.
And do you want to give them just kind of maybe a brief description, just who we are, before we head out? Just giving people an idea of who these strangers, who these knuckleheads.
These knuckleheads. Well, we've been in the business of filmmaking, screenwriting for many more years than I care to count, but we made our bones as screenwriters. Lee Anthony Smith and Gregory J. Bradley. Probably our biggest claim to fame, if you want to call it a claim to fame, is War, which got made back in 2007 and had Jet Li and Jason Statham. In the interim, we've made tons of documentaries. We've written many more scripts that just have not gotten produced, but are out there. And now we have a new movie called Noir. We'll be finishing the movie this year, which I'm very excited about. It's something that, the both of us have been working on for a very long time, but I think it's going to be worth the wait. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. You heard us rant for about 2 hours, so you'll like us or hate us. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people might agree with us. People might think we're just, jerks, but give us a comment. Let us know.
Yeah.
But like and subscribe, right?
And follow us on Facebook at Noir the Film, and follow us on Instagram, Noir the Film. Well, I'm Greg, and
I'm Lee. Bye.